Welcome back to RDWorks Learning Lab. Today we're going to venture into two unknown areas. One concerns you and one concerns me. This is the shape of some 10mm acrylic that I happen to possess. That's something that will concern you. What I'm making is part of a Christmas present for my wife. That's the dodgy bit that concerns me. All will become clear as we get towards the end of the project. What I do know is that my wife would like some very expensive chef's cutlery. Whether it's the right thing to buy her for Christmas, I'm not entirely sure. But I know that's one of the things that we might have to buy if I don't buy it for her for Christmas. Right, back to the first unknown, 10mm acrylic. I've got some 10mm acrylic, not very much of it, but it's enough to carry out this project. I've had to be a bit careful with it, and as you can see I've divided this piece of material into two, and I've managed to get two sets of pieces out of one piece of material. Now, how do we go about programming this? If you've been following all my videos, I hope that at this stage you would find this very easy. First of all, the shape around the outside is the material that I've got to work with. We don't need that. So I shall delete that, and these are the pieces that I've got to cut from that material. The first thing I'm going to do is put a marquee around it, and I'm going to go up to the handles and cut optimize, and I'm going to make sure I've got nothing ticked here. I don't want order of layer or inside or outside, auto determination of the start point, but that's all I want. Edit the cut property, and here, if you remember, we want to make sure that we cut all the holes before we cut any of the outside shapes. So let's pick some outside shapes to start with. There's one. We'll send that across to that list there. There's another one. We'll send that across to the list. Then we've got this one, which we will send across to the list. And finally this one. Send it across to the list. And now we can send the rest of this across to the list with the three arrows. We've got our outside shapes at the top, the first pieces to be cut. We want them as the last pieces to be cut. So what we do is we reverse the list and reorder it. And there they are, they're now down at the bottom of the list. Okay. Now we can check that out with a preview. I'm not going to do that because you're well familiar with that, but that will just prove that what we've done is correct. All the holes will cut first and the outside shapes last. Typically you would expect to be able to cut maybe 5 or 6mm perspex. I do know that if you cut round something twice, generally it will fall out. Now whether I can get 10mm to fall out in one go was an interesting question, but I did do some experimental work and I found that 2 hits left a ragged edge, which I shall show you later on. But one hit, provided I go in at something really ridiculously slow, like about 2mm a second, then it seems to cut all the way through. I'm going to set my power to 65%. Those of you that have been watching the video will know why I'm using 65%, because that's where I get maximum power out of my tube. Even though I could program it at 100%, I will get no more power out the tube. I'll just drive the current up and burn the tube out quicker. We'll make sure that we have laser through mode unticked. For what reason I don't know, but I never tick it. So save that to a U file and we'll carry on with another part of the job now. We'll just clear the screen and we will import. When I scroll out, you'll see that I've actually got 3 pieces of material, 3 drawings on here. Now I'm importing them all at once on one import file, but what I'm going to do is to delete 2 of them for the moment, and then I shall import them all again and delete the 2 outside ones, and I shall import them all again and delete the first 2. So eventually I shall program all 3 of them. I'm not going to go through programming all 3 of them because they will all be programmed in exactly the same manner. So we won't bore you with that. We shall just do this one and put that onto our work area, and then we'll use the middle magnifying glass to bring it up to size. There's my piece of material around the outside that I've programmed this into. So the first thing we should do is click on that and delete it. And those are the three parts that I'm making. Now, you will obviously recognize those as shapes for a knife blade. So what I'm actually making now is a knife holding block for these rather expensive bits of cutlery that I'm getting. Okay, this is going to be manufactured from 3mm clear acrylic, because that's what I happen to have. I could have got away with 2.5mm, but I can't go much thinner than 2.5mm because I need to be able to handle the thickness of the blade, which is about 2.3mm thick. So 3mm is an ideal material for me to be using. Okay, exactly the same principles apply here as they did to our previous job. We've got this already set up here. We'll put a marquee round there, and now we'll just go and check up here on the handle, cut, optimize, just to confirm that we've still got nothing ticked except the auto determine the start point. And now we'll go up here to order our cuts. We edit the cut property, and we'll take the outside shape there and we'll move that across to the second column. We'll take the outside shape there and move that across to the second column, and the outside shape here and move that across to the second column. And then we'll send all the rest across, and then we'll do a reverse, reorder, OK. Job done. Except we haven't set this. Now this is 3mm acrylic, and my best guess for that is probably something like about 10mm a second, and 65%, which is the maximum power that I'm going to get out of my tube. That doesn't mean to say I'm going to get 65% of the power. It means I get 100% of the available wattage at 65% program. Now we just need to save that to a memory stick, and we'll meet up at the machine. Now that's looking very promising at cutting through 10mm thick acrylic. Just when we get to the edge of the material here, you'll see that we've definitely got smoke coming out from underneath. I think, as you saw there, it's actually cut that out, look. So that's 10mm thick acrylic cut at 2mm a second. The edge is a little bit tapered, but that's to be expected. And this one, just a little hold up with these holes, but not a lot. Look, they just pop out. This is 3mm acrylic cutting at 10mm a second, 65% full power. So you can see the extraction is drawing the smoke away from the underneath of the cut, so you know that it's actually cutting right through. I think if you look carefully, you can see that I'm supporting this job on my pin base in places where the cut is not taking place. So there's no chance of me running over any of the pins. And I think there's the answer to your question. It's cut out completely. It's a very nice edge. Well, these are the last ones that were cut out of 10mm, and as you can see, they're just falling out. 35 degrees C was my return temperature from the laser, So the water temperature at 35 degrees C has not affected the cut at all. Well, here's the set of knives that I've bought for my wife, and as you can see, I've made all these inserts. I've designed and manufactured all these inserts so that they almost fit the knives in question, so you can't get the knives in the wrong order. So what we're going to do now is to assemble these pieces, and I'll show you how it all fits together. So we've got some stainless steel dome nuts here. They're M5, and I'll put 3 or 4 of these together to start with. I think if I try and put them all in at the same time, it's probably going to cause me a few problems. Well, I'm going to put 4 in to start with, and you'll see why. We start off the bottom here with a plain plate. Okay, now we just pop those on there like that, and then we put our first coloured plate on, and then we're going to put one of these on as well. Like that. Wrong way around, sorry. That one goes on there. And let's also put those there so they're ready to drop straight onto my assembly here. And then we'll pop one of these plates on. And then one of these plates. And a spacer. Now it might look as though I'm picking these plates up randomly, but I have actually sorted them out into an order before I started piling them up. And then finally a plain end plate. And then I should be able to put some nuts on there to clamp the whole thing together. Put the remaining 3 items through the holes that are left, because they should be lined up. Just tighten those up slightly later on, but there we go. There's the finished assembly, and there's the end result. So all I've got to do now is find a suitable box and wrap that up for my wife for Christmas. Although my good wife has always wanted a set of really good chef's knives, these don't have diamonds in them, they're not sparkly, and they're not 24 carat. I don't really know how this is going to go down as a Christmas present, but perhaps I should take the edge off my sarcasm and wit before I find out just how sharp they are. Now here I am cutting 10mm thick acrylic on a 50-watt machine that might actually finish up being a 40-watt machine when I actually find out what it's capable of doing. But nonetheless, I'm extremely pleased that I can cut 10mm in one go with this machine. I started off doing some test squares, and I was planning to do 2 cuts, one after the other, to try and get the depth. But it really wasn't very successful. It worked, but if you look carefully, you'll see that it's a fairly... You can obviously see cut 1 and cut 2. And it's not produced a very good edge. So rather than run 2 cuts at about 5 or 7mm a second, I decided I would try 1 cut at a very slow speed, 2mm per second. And this is the end result. That's very good. But it did throw up another problem, which is nothing to do with the speed, but all to do with, I think, probably the alignment of my beam. Now when I look at the edge cuts, these 2 edges here are actually not bad. They're nearly upright. But when I turn it through 90 degrees and we take a look what's happened to the other 2 edges, I think you can clearly see that that edge is laying across at that angle and this edge is laying across at that angle. There's probably a 3 or 4 degree angle on those 2 edges. It might even be a little bit more than that. But that tells me that I've got some sort of problem with my beam alignment. Now, that I think is a subject of another video of how to align my beams up